against the Muslims in the Holy Land, the place the Muslims had conquered 400 years earlier. And you may wonder how Western Europe plucked up the courage to challenge Muslim supremacy.
On the face of it, we've got a mystery. For centuries, the Arab world has been firing on all cylinders. They've been charting the heavens and investigating the circulation of the blood and cracking complicated algebraic equations. And they've been full of intellectual and military confidence, while Western Europe has been sunk in lethargy, a world of stumbling ox carts and mumbling monks and homicidal popes. And yet it's Western Christendom that manages to shake itself out of its lethargy and mount these extraordinary expeditions.
It's partly a function of the relative unity of the two civilizations. At the height of their powers in the 9th and 10th centuries, the Muslims were united. But Western Europe was plagued by the feudal system, with power contested between barons and counts and lords.
Jonathan, you know that film Pulp Fiction where this guy called Marcellus says, "I'm going to get medieval on your ass"? And that immediately connotes ideas of barbarity and violence and very, very nasty practices. Is that fair on the Middle Ages?
It is and it isn't. Violence is a very, very clear and powerful feature of 11th, 12th century Europe. The reason why it's such a violent society is that order is broken down. You've got these small lordships, castellans, and these guys are laws unto themselves. They can charge around attacking peasants, churches, the vulnerable, the weak. They take money from them, they take their cattle, their crops, and they enrich themselves.
At this stage, the popes in Rome were happily assassinating each other like minor characters from The Sopranos. But as the 11th century progressed, the Catholic hierarchy began to get its act together.
The church decides it has a moral responsibility to do something about this. It needs to try and steer its flock, if you like, in a better moral direction. Violence is bad. And so one of the things it tries to do is initiate something called the peace of God. And what this is the church telling and making knights and people in society swear on an oath they will not harm certain groups of people, the poor or churchmen, or the truce of God, that for certain periods of time there will be no violence. So one of the things it's got to stop people doing is sinning.
And what was the church's main weapon in the fight against sin? The promise of eternal damnation, everlasting torment. And we're not just talking about Heathrow on a bank holiday, as we can see from this famous carving at Moissac in southwest France.
Now, when did you last hear a mainstream Christian cleric warn his congregation that they were going to fry in hell? Is there anyone in the Church of England who still believes in the great crimson-licking tongues of hellfire with grinning demons toasting your spleen on forks? The last pronouncement I heard from the Church of England was that even if hell does exist, there may be no one in it. Compare that feeble milquetoast theology with the genuine terror in the hearts of 12th century Europe. Look at Luxuria here, the wages of sin, her breast being devoured by serpents and a toad wreaking some unmentionable vengeance. We find it difficult to think ourselves back into the minds of people who were genuinely terrified of hell. And yet for a medieval churchman, that terror was full of political possibility. Oh, peccatores, transmutatis nisi mores, judicium jurum vobis scitoti futurum. Oh, sinners, unless you shape up, something nasty is going to happen to you. That was the gist of what the priest said.
Sin was a powerful tool of religious and political control, because the church could decide what constituted a sin, and the church could let you off. And as we'll see, this once-in-a-lifetime chance to get out of hell free was a crucial component in the Crusades. To see how sin was used to order medieval society, I've come to the French village of Conques. Here's the famous tympanum, giving it the full medieval Monty. There's heaven on one side, painted blue, and hell, replete with ghastly torments, painted red on the other. This is a portrait not just of the hereafter, but of the hopes and fears of medieval Christian society.
It's a sort of hellfire sermon in stone, isn't it?
It is. It's a cartoon with words and pictures. And in the middle, you've got Christ in majesty delivering the last judgment. And if you end up on the wrong side, you get pushed through the jaws of hell.
There you go. The
enormous creature with a pair of feet disappearing down its mouth.
Great big dog in a kennel.
Yeah.
You have to admit that hell is more interesting to look at.
There's a heck of a lot more going on there. But it's the peace, the calm and the order that people are aspiring to and the church is trying to direct them to.
And there's so little of that in their disordered, violent, medieval lives.
Yeah, exactly. The genius of Urban II in 1095 is to come up with the idea of the crusade. Men who've been sinning all their lives through these misdeeds that we can see, through this penitential act, taking the cross and going to the Holy Land, will get remission of all their sins. The slate will be wiped clean.
Pope Urban's masterstroke was to solve two problems at once: to export the violence of the troublesome medieval knights out of Europe, and to strengthen the power of the papacy as the leader of the Western Christian Church on the other.
He had the idea that if Christians from the West could go to Jerusalem to free Christians from the East from the dominations of Muslims in general, so he could recreate the unity of the world. Of
the unity of the Roman world,
yes,
as it was.
Yes.
How amazing. So that was part of his conception.
He was sure that he was the only one who could rule over Christendom. And also the Pope in the Middle Ages, in the center of the Middle Ages, had become a prince.
It was one thing for the Pope to send out crusaders to capture the holy places. It was quite another to hold on to them.
When Urban II makes his speech at Clermont, he promises the Crusaders the land of milk and honey. And what he's doing there is being realistic. OK, they've got to go for the right reason, the religious intention, cleansing Jerusalem and all that. But he's not stupid, because, of course, if they do that and then all come home, it's pointless, self-evidently. Some people have got to stay, and they will be promised that land.
Add to this the long-lasting Christian antipathy towards Muslims and a powerful resentment of their occupying Jerusalem, and you have a recipe for the extraordinary combination of pilgrimage plus violence that was the Crusades. Some 60,000 persons set off for the Holy Land. Not only knights, but also peasants, preachers, and assorted misfits. The main body of knights arrived in Constantinople in July 1096. 3 years later, after a long series of arduous and bloody sieges, they arrived in Jerusalem. Here they slaughtered between 20 and 30,000 people, Jews as well as Muslims. It's not surprising then that for many Muslims today, the Crusades are seen as an ominous symbol of Western aggression. Some people say that the Crusades have never ended, and yet in the West they tended to be seen either as a glorious adventure or an admirable religious sacrifice, or both. The way the Crusades are viewed by many in the Muslim world today is at the heart of the current crisis. To understand why, we need to see these struggles in their true context.
In the next programme, I want to look at the impact of those crusades on the Muslim world. And I also want to look at the way that word has become today even more menacing to the Muslim mind than it was 1,000 years ago.
And you can catch that next part of After Rome on Saturday at 8:10 here on BBC Two. Next, dents in the bikes, the egos and the friendship of Charlie and Ewan in Long Way Down.